Santa Barbara's beautiful ocean and mountain views, classic architecture, and mild climate. For many, it's paradise. But no matter where you live, if you're without a home, it is far from heaven.
The ground is cold at night. It's like a heat sink. It just draws the heat right out of your body.
Well, I know it's like the jungle we call, you know what I mean? And, you know, it's like in the bushes and where nobody can see us.
Really, really scared. I didn't know if I was going to make it. I never knew from one day to the next how it was going to go.
Or how it was going to end. Every year, about 22 homeless people die in Santa Barbara. The rest must survive the stereotype.
I'd hear a lot of people, oh, look at those homeless people over there. Why don't they get a job?
Ken Williams has spent many years on the streets of Santa Barbara helping the homeless.
When are you supposed to have the stitches out? You got to get those stitches out.
He says to start to address the homelessness issue, we have to stop the stereotype.
You put up a stereotype. This is the one person that represents homelessness. Then you remember that one bad encounter you had, and then also all homeless people are really bad.
Some homeless people face life circumstances like the loss of a job, a personal injury, or financial problems. Others suffer from depression, anxiety, or post-traumatic stress disorder and turn to alcohol or drugs until it's impossible to work or pay mortgage or rent. Steve moved from New Jersey to Santa Barbara in the 60s. He didn't fit in here and eventually fell into the wrong crowd. After years of substance abuse and running from the law, a train accident cost him his leg and almost his life. He went from staying in a hospital to a shelter.
Basically, what happened was they kept telling me, we're going to get you into a care home. Don't worry. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. We won't put you on the streets. Don't worry. They released me to the shelter.
Ty spent 3 years living in her car in a parking lot here in Santa Barbara.
I had a home in Santa Clarita, a single mom, and after 20 years I lost my job. And then 6 months later I was hit as a pedestrian. It took about 5 years to go to court, and I didn't have any medical insurance at the time because I had lost my job. And I lost my house within like 6-7 months. And they had a small shelter there, and they closed it down after 2 summers. So I was donated a car, and thank God, because I don't know what else I would have done.
Peter was an industrial engineer here in town. He lived in his car in Isla Vista.
Well, I actually moved to Santa Barbara in about 1985 or so, and I've lived and worked here at a number of companies that aren't here anymore. Technit, Infomag, and around 1990 became unemployed, and rather than leave the area, I wanted to stay here. Well, of course, my money ran out, and so I have a Datsun 280Z, and I knew about Isla Vista as being a place where they have food programs, food giveaway programs, and free lunch programs and things like that. So I sort of migrated out there.
Mark moved here from Boston. He lived on the streets of Santa Barbara.
I was in Santa Barbara near the fig tree, and to be honest with you, that's when I had a big drinking problem. And I was jaywalking, and before they had the overpass there, and I wasn't really paying attention. I seen a car come out, I was trying to run, and I got hit by a car, and I ripped 3 ligaments. I just thank God I still have my leg here.
Although each of their stories are unique, the paths of these 4 people converged here at El Carrillo on the 15th of September, 2006. A peaceful place, a serene sanctuary. El Carrillo is permanent supportive housing and is intended to help people who have been challenged by homelessness. 61 254 square foot studio apartments with laundry facilities, community rooms, and support resources right on site. For these residents, it all seemed too good to be true.
I mean, something that makes you feel so good because you're not on the streets anymore. You don't staying here, sleeping here, and this and that, you know. So it's rough out there. You know, now I know I have a place to come home to, go to work every day.
As soon as we saw the inside, everyone started running around like little school children on the first day of school. And we all were saying, oh, I want this unit, I want this one, I want to, you know, because we were moving into an empty building.
I had a key to my own place, and I can shut the door. And if I wanted to be happy, I could be happy. If I wanted to cry, because when I was living in my car, if I was crying, people were always walking past. I didn't have curtains on my window.
And for Steve, who as a teenager never fit in, finally a chance to have a circle of friends who have a lot in common.
I was just completely blown away that the city had done such a great job and really did fill it up with people who really needed to be here. And I came with a lot of people that I'd been on the streets with, I'd been in the shelters with, and it was really neat to see them here too.
El Carrillo is the first project of its kind in Santa Barbara County, and the first to be completed under the county's 10-year plan to end chronic homelessness.
The 10-year planning process was out of the federal government, their desire to try to really deal with the issue of chronic homelessness. About 10% of the people that are homeless are considered chronic, meaning they are without a home for over a year, or they have I believe it's 4 episodes of homelessness during a given year.
Priorities of the 10-year plan include preventing homelessness, moving people rapidly from the streets to housing, and building the public and political will to end homelessness. Santa Barbara County's 10-year plan is called Bringing Our Community Home. Its goal is to implement a practical solution to a costly problem.
Take them off the streets in the condition that they're in, stabilize them in a unit, and then bring those services that are unique to that individual to them.
350 communities have 10-year plans. So, in fact, Santa Barbara's partnered with a national conspiracy to bring an end to a moral and spiritual wrong.
Recently, Philip Mangano, the executive director of the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, came to town to support Santa Barbara County's 10-year plan. He toured permanent and supportive housing like El Carrillo and the Mental Health Association's Building Hope. Building Hope, once completed, will have 51 units of affordable housing for mental health clients and low-income downtown workers. Mangano believes in moving beyond traditional shelters and soup kitchens.
Homeless people are often randomly ricocheting through very expensive health and law enforcement systems in the emergency room of hospitals, in the acute side of substance abuse and mental health programs, police and firefighter interventions, court and incarceration costs. When you add all of those up, and we've seen this in 65 different cost studies around our country, and you're doing one here in Santa Barbara, what you'll discover is the cost of their random ricocheting in health and law enforcement systems is more expensive than solving their homelessness by providing a place to live and the support services that people need.
According to Roger Haru's report on chronic homelessness services in the county of Santa Barbara in February 2006, a day at the Santa Barbara County Jail costs $86, a private health care facility $800. A hospital bed costs $1,600 per day. Compare those numbers to permanent supportive housing, which costs $28 per day.
Okay, do you need any help getting a job?
Officer Bob Casey patrols the streets of Santa Barbara every day.
How you doing, Charlie? Could I talk to you a second?
He says he receives about 6 to 7 calls daily related to homeless people with mental illnesses. Some of those are repeat calls on the same person.
The service-resistant mentally ill that we deal with generate a lot of calls for service. They end up getting arrested for alcoholism. Booking them into jail and housing them at the jail and going to court is way more expensive than getting these people assistance connected with mental health or constant alcohol and drug abuse and housing them.
And many say that the individual needs of homeless people are not met while behind bars. Duncan Wright, one of 2 on-site counselors at El Carrillo, says that their support services meet all those different challenges.
We are dealing with basic rehabilitation skills, which means learning to live in a community with a roof over your head, with managing your money, with being healthy, with connecting with other support services, medical, psychiatric, financial, and so on, vocational, getting people back to work or back to education.
Hi, Robert.
We also provide counseling for recovery, for anxiety or depression or PTSD. We provide community counseling for neighbors to get along with each other.
But that means homeless individuals have to want the help in order to get it.
Some people are so used being in the streets and they've been there so long, or they're scared to ask, or they just get really like mental issues with themselves. You know what I mean? And I speak to a lot of people still out in the streets, and then I see them like, well, you can get housing, I can help you go down. Oh, no, I'm not ready. When you can be ready, when you roll over. That's how I look at it, serious. And I know guys in their 30s, 20s, 40s, you got to want, just like if you want to do AA, if you want to do this, you got to want it.
There's a lot of people who may not be ready for help. There's issues beyond just simply providing a house for them, because I've seen countless times where they provide someone a house or an apartment and they're not ready for it, so they mess it up and have it taken away from them. That happens a great deal. The cycle of homelessness is not something that has a simple cure to it.
There's also the matter of money.
I would say the Bush administration has done a good job in advancing the concept of a 10-year plan and getting us all thinking about the planning that's necessary. Unfortunately, it has not delivered on the dollar side, dollars that I think are necessary to make more projects like El Carrillo happen. There's a lot of competing interests for the federal dollar, but if anything, what's happened recently is the foreclosure crisis at least has our Congress and the current administration talking about housing for the first time.
We don't know what the politics are going to be in Washington after November. There is enough evidence now, solid studies, that economics will drive this.
The governing board of the 10-year plan is in the process of identifying what it will cost to fund housing and supportive services needed to implement bringing our community home. With a faltering economy and millions of foreclosures, the reality is that housing is an issue for many people, not just the chronically homeless. But proponents of the plan say that investing in permanent supportive housing is cost-effective. When homeless people are given the right resources to get off the streets and start over, we all benefit. So while the dialogue about the 10-year plan continues, so too does the conversation between neighbors at El Carrillo. Many of them realize the challenges of the 10-year plan, but say Santa Barbara's efforts should be recognized.
I do applaud Santa Barbara's effort, because my first thought was that they're doing more than their share. I think the city has done proportionally a wonderful job. To be able to build a facility like this in an area that's already developed, and to be able to provide so many brand new apartments in a place where housing is an issue, I think they've gone the extra mile.
Many people here at El Carrillo are for the first time in a long time making plans for the future, while others are just taking it one step at a time.
There's no doubt in my mind that if it weren't for El Carrillo, I wouldn't even like to think about where I might be today.
So they do start to think in terms of what's out there in the world for me, rather than, how am I going to, survive living on the street corner.
I'm just trying to get myself back together again. From being homeless for 3 years, it takes a toll on you, and you get post-traumatic stress, and so it takes you a little while.
Everything's all right. I just one day at a time, 1 hour at a time. That's all you can do in life. But I hope my life just gets a little bit better.
A little bit better for those at El Carrillo, in a sense their own paradise in Santa Barbara, a place to call home.